Welcome back to Channel Water. Today we're going to talk about the situation that the majority of us are in, quarantined, forced to socially distance ourselves from others, and pay attention to the invisible world, a microscopical world that we can't see, we can't even smell, taste, things we don't feel. And here in Channel Water we often talk about that world, that microscopical world, and how we are giants in that world. So today we're going to talk about those issues and how it's going to affect our future and also what it means for the present time. As we experience life through the individual body, the human body, we have this illusion of being individuals, that we are in some way disconnected from everything around us, that we're walking in nothingness, that we're not inside, or rather we're outside. Our ideas of inside-outside is whether you're inside of a building or outside, but a lot of times we forget that it doesn't matter where you go, you are inside of the atmosphere, which is an extension of the ocean. So it's just a layer of water that is thinner. That's why we are a walking ocean in the atmosphere, because of our density. But we're still inside. We're inside of something. And as we know, where there's water, there's life. If there's no water even in the air, you get a desert. So the feeling and understanding of what life is and where it is and how we are cells, we're part of a bigger body, one ocean basically, that then fractals itself down, separates itself down to structures like plants, animal, people, which now everyone seems to be much more aware of. So in the video today we're going to talk about that. It's that awareness that we're forced into, at least the majority of people that usually live within that illusion of the individual. For me personally, since I started working with water and understanding how life is alive, everywhere you go, in every scale, I understood that, and I understood how basically being a germaphobe is not a bad thing. You actually realize that everything around you is alive, and every drop of water, droplet, the smallest one, carries life in it, in many different forms and scales, and some are harmful at times. So today we're seeing the effect of what a harmful, invisible structure to our eyes can do to an entire society or to the bigger body. So if we look at life inside of this big ocean, inside of the ocean and atmosphere, what we find is that we have architecture that's being built. So first we have cells of a certain size, and then they build up organisms that are bigger, then they build up architecture that gets bigger and bigger and more complex into plants, and then moving plants, which are insects and animals, and then even bigger and the most sophisticated ones, which are people, the human body. But within that, the original structure and blueprint of life remains. So from the cells that build our body, then we are a bigger collage of those cells that then build a bigger body. And now it's the first time we see that. We see both at the same time. So we see how our cells in our body are now vulnerable to a certain virus or any kind of disease. And then our body as one cell within the bigger body, how that can affect everyone else. So in our body we try to isolate any kind of threat and basically push back and protect the body from that threat. And then in the bigger scale of society, if a person is sick, we would like to quarantine them, so we keep that at bay, and then from there on we take care of it and prevent it from spreading out and harming more people and spreading out throughout the bigger body. So just like you can see now that you as one cell in the bigger body, it's the same way inside of your body. There are the same level of conscious cells and architecture that has the same mechanisms in place to prevent you from getting sick. And then if you get sick, we have to prevent the bigger body from getting sick. So the illness doesn't travel further. So our bodies are this huge collage of cells, and you can call it almost societies, and there's a lot of events that are happening within our bodies. But now you start to really be aware of what we're consuming. So the human body is like a channel, and through that channel passes basically water in many different forms. Some of it is just what we breathe, what we drink, and what we eat. And then within that, we live in a wet environment. We are wet creatures. So if you touch something, and then touch your face, touch your mouth, touch food, the glass you're going to drink water from, things can travel and still enter your body. So we are this channel, and the most important thing for us to do is protect what comes into this channel, into this body, and how it affects the society inside of it. And you can see that in different scales. Now we're becoming aware of the microscopical scale, the invisible form of life that we usually don't see, and many people are not even aware of. But in your city, you can see that, where we filter our drinking water, we have trash collection systems, we have sewage, we have all those systems in place, which are most of them channels, to bring clean water, food, air into our systems, into our buildings, into our bodies. And then everything that leaves the body, and all the toxins and trash, we want to have that moved away from us into a safe place in a way that we can treat it in the correct way. So then we have treatment facilities for sewage, trash, recycling, composting, all of the above. As human cells, we are designed to see and react to the world around us in a very individual way. So we normally don't see the big fabric of the microscopical networks of life, and we don't see the bigger fabric of life that we're part of. So then you have two options. You can either get a microscope or a telescope. You can see through a microscope the level of complexity of life in our bodies, or even if you take a drop of water from a pond, and you can look that up and see the amount of life that exists in every drop of water you can find out in nature. Or you can take a satellite view and see larger patterns and structures within cities, communities, that you are just a small cell inside of. Maybe one light moving within this whole highways and networks and homes and cities, countries that we're all part of. So both of those worlds are usually invisible to us. We're designed to operate within the parameters of what we see and do our cellular work and role within that bigger body. In the scale of the universe, we usually see ourselves as very small. But the reality is that we are giants, made out of trillions of cells. And now we are becoming more aware of that, and we also have the ability to do something about it. From the beginning of time, we had to deal with illnesses, disease, and before we had microscopes, we thought that there were bad spirits. There were invisible forces in nature that would possess, hurt, kill people. And now we know what they are. We still can't see them, but we're becoming more aware of how they operate, how they travel in and out of our bodies, and what we can do about it and how we can protect ourselves from it. Also, for many people now around the world, they start to see that we are all the same, we're all one, we're part of one big body, and we are all dealing with the same issue at once for the first time. For the first time, you have the entire global community of humanity dealing with one issue, and we're also all connected and aware of that it's happening and what is happening everywhere. So that connectivity between people all around the world is now becoming something new that we're seeing, we're actually feeling it. And our global being, our one ocean of consciousness around this world, almost has a spark now that allows it to be aware of itself. Where before There might have been natural disasters in different places, and you would hear about it much later. Then as news and internet developed, we heard about it immediately, but still we didn't feel it, we didn't connect to it directly. We just saw that something happened somewhere. Now it's happening all at once, everywhere. Everyone are seeing it, everyone are connected to it. And we have this really interesting moment where we're both physically, socially distancing from each other. So one cell distances itself from another cell physically. But at the same time, we can say in a digital way, we are more connected than ever. So, and you can see a big spike in all the use of all the networks, whether they're social networks, broadcasting, using phones, TVs. Everything is now ramped up to the max because people are alone at home, which were not designed to be disconnected. So we're finding ways to connect even further and more than the usual. So we have this both distant physical feeling, yet very connected feeling in a more, I would say almost spiritual, but it's that invisible again way of us connecting to each other. So we can see each other, hear each other, post and comment through the internet, through networks that are again invisible, but we feel more connected to more people than ever. So let's talk a little bit about what brought us to this place where we are, which some people have actually predicted this happening. Once you are aware of the microscopic world, once you are aware that, as I say, life is alive, everything we eat and drink is alive. It's alive as we eat it, it's alive when we dispose it. It's the reason we are alive. We don't eat things that are dead. Now, when something is alive, it's also creative. It's building, it's making, it has the element of life in it. So when we mistreat living matter, when we mistreat our food, our water, everything that we consume, there are consequences to that. There are effects that are bad to our health and to our livelihood. And now we can actually see that. We can see things that we know that are wrong and that are right as far as what we do and how we do it. And specifically when it comes to living matter, to our food, to our water, air too, everything we consume. So we know what happens when the quality of air drops, when the quality of water drops, and the quality of food. Now, we can see here in this situation where something started in what we call, for example, wet markets. We all know what happens to dead bodies. We all know that even human bodies, we dispose them in a certain way. And we'd learned that from past mistakes where plagues and diseases rule the world. If you bury a dead body in the wrong place or by a water source, or if it had a disease in it, and then suddenly you have a whole community getting sick. So we know that there's very specific ways we have to treat the food we eat. And when we don't do that, this is what we'll have to deal with. Now, there's a lot of illnesses out there, and a lot of diseases too, that could be prevented by using the same measures. And once you understand what living matter, what the food that you eat, that it's actually alive, not just in the level of the animal that it is, that the plant that it is, every cell in it, the material, the water in it basically, those structures and cells, they are alive. And there's certain things that we should and should not do. So simply, we should definitely not torture the food before we eat it, as we do to many animals today. And then we should not torture the food as we dispose it. So you know what happens when you put things in your trash can and you don't compost? Those smells, those colors, I mean, we see that. Things rot and decay in a way that's not healthy. But a lot of people have the illusion that we are living in some kind of an open system where if you throw something out to the trash or down the drain, it goes somewhere and never comes back. The reality is the opposite. It always comes back, and it comes back to your body. So whatever you dispose out will eventually end up in the waterways, in the ocean, in the plants you eat, in the animal you eat, in the food we consume. It will always come back. And that living matter will come back with those memories and that torture that it's been through, coming back to your body. And by that creating all the disease and issues that we have today. So for that reason, I keep emphasizing the idea that we are inside. We are inside of a bigger body. Everything we do is internal. There's nothing that's external. There's no cosmic trash cans. Nothing goes elsewhere. Everything comes back. We eat ourselves, basically. We consume ourselves. We are channels within a bigger body that has this flow going through itself. And once we start damaging that system, then the channels are sick, the body is sick, and nothing is going to be able to move forward in a healthy way, in a sustainable way. And what we're doing here is building life, growing, and expanding. When I first saw a video of what we call wet markets, I felt that I was watching hell on earth. And it's definitely something that is just wrong. But I don't want to judge that situation where also if I watch a video of a factory here in America that processed chicken or cows or any other animal, it looks the same way. It does look as hell on earth too. The way we treat the animals, the way we basically bring them to slaughter. I don't think that we need to have necessarily vegan, vegetarian. I think diet is a very subjective thing. And I think different people need different types of food. And it's not about what we eat, it's about how. How we treat living matter, before and after. So we need to look both at ourselves and how we treat living matter here, how we treat animals, and we also need to help communities around the world, which sometimes don't have enough food, and they have to do those kind of things and have those kind of markets and help them also with education. They don't have necessarily, some people might not have awareness about, is an animal conscious, alive? Is a cell conscious and alive? Is their memory and understanding and knowledge traveling through all those cells and all those beings that then come back to our bodies, comes back to haunt us and then torture us in return. So we are inside of a closed system, and the worst issue we can have is people that think that they're individual, that they're not inside of a system, that their actions does not affect everyone else and themselves also. So there's this feeling of this disconnect. And as human beings, we are very disconnected from nature. It's part of our being as we evolve out to space, but our awareness now is building, and our understanding of what we should and should not do when it comes to the consumption we have. So as we deal with these issues now, they're all going to take account, they're all going to shape our evolution forward. Our evolution is not done. The human body is not done. The way that we're going to live this place out to space is going to be shaped by all of these issues and the ways that our bodies are basically vulnerable to different toxins, viruses, bacteria, parasites. So we don't know yet exactly how we will completely evolve, whether each person will have some kind of a individual pod cell that we're occupying, or is it a second skin and a mask, some kind of a secondary skin that will suit, that will wear, that will prevent those things from happening? That is yet to be determined. And those things will be determined by things like this that are happening right now. This is the moment that we'll actually learn how to protect our bodies further and better as we move forward to the future. We can definitely see a movement away from the tribe into the individual cell. So in general, as you go through communities, past communities that were just a tribe, and then different families living together in different cultures, even today, which we can see that they are hit worst with this virus because as generations live together in the same space, the older and the more vulnerable ones were hurt the most. And when you move to cities, for example, like Los Angeles in California, where everyone has their own car and house, and the spread is easier to control, and there's less, and people that are vulnerable are able to protect themselves and stay isolated. So we see this move away from the tribe, the family, the clan, into a more individual cellular beings, where we have more control and more protection from viruses like this or issues like this. And now we're experiencing an even further distancing. And it's not just distancing socially, it's really distancing from our own bodies, as we are in a way some kind of a spirit, consciousness, occupying a vehicle and operating in the world. And we keep improving these vehicles and the relationship between this body and the world, making life more comfortable, less miserable in a way, and also protecting them better from any kind of disease. And we've seen that through the ages. I mean, just in the last 100 years, we made such progress where today you can expect every baby that's conceived to be born and to be healthy, when most diseases we can cure or at least mitigate. So we're moving forward fast, and I think it's important to understand that we're not done. There are going to be big changes to the way we live, the way we operate in this world, and at some point we might completely disconnect from the physical body and back to a larger ocean of consciousness. That's where we came from. So we do have a function within this world to build a certain architecture, and it's very possible that these bodies are just a temporary vehicle to create that transition and in building that architecture. But either way, we will have to do a lot of work to protect these vulnerable bodies, especially now when we see that a tiny sequence of DNA wrapped in protein can completely destroy bodies, communities, life as we know it. Most people don't understand how basically a virus is the smallest of all the things that could attack your body. Parasites, bacteria. A virus is not even alive, some people claim. It's a small sequence of DNA that's wrapped in a shell that's made out of protein. But once that thing enters your body, it hijacks your cells and then completely changes the way cells operate within your body. So it's like a virus on a computer. If I send you a certain code to your computer and trick you to open it, which that's what the virus does to our cells, it tricks them to actually receive it. Then I can take over your computer and make it do whatever I want. So we can see that there's almost a design element to the virus that could be designed by another bacteria, by another living creature. It could be part of basically internal wars within the body of consciousness. We can talk about that later in a different video about why there are basically movements within consciousness that want to stop or does not agree with where we're moving forward. There's definitely forces within nature that wants to keep things as they are, and there are forces in nature that wants to move forward, especially moving out of planet Earth to space. But that will have to be a completely other video because it's too much for this one. So right now we're going through very difficult times. The value of life is the highest value there is. And personally, I believe in every cell, every human, animal, plant. It's very difficult to see loss of life of any scale, anywhere. While that is happening right now, I'm also seeing something else. I'm seeing the global connectivity between human beings across the board, across the border, across continents, cultures, religions. When we understand that it doesn't matter what religion you are, what you believe in, Your body, your vehicle is something that is like mine. And we are all sharing the same type of mechanism, vulnerabilities, advantages. If we find a cure, we will give it to everyone. Anything that we do from now on will share globally in that sense. There is a sense of unity that arises from this situation. There is a spark of awareness, both to the global consciousness, to the global community that we are, but also awareness to the microcosmos that we are part of. Really understanding life on all scales and how alive it is. So from the way that we'll treat our air, water, food, animals, plants, ourselves, to each other, we will really understand what to do better and move to a place where we'll be definitely stronger and able to deal and basically erase diseases of this kind. If we're able to fight this one virus, then we'll be able to fight others, which transmit themselves in the same manner. So it might be that within all of this social distancing and quarantines, that we'll be able to actually curve back also other diseases that are flowing through the world. We know how horrible the flu season is as far as how many people die from it regularly. So I do see a certain light in the end of this event, and I do feel that it will do something good. And it is sad to lose any life at this point, and I wish we didn't have to. But while these things happen, we might as well make sure those lives are not lost for nothing. We have to make sure that this never happens again to anyone else. So I think as we come out of this, we can slowly watch and readjust what we do and how we do it. Especially with the way we treat living matter. We treat animals, plants, people. What we consume a lot of times is toxic and we can't see it. It's just toxic. We can't see it. So much of the food we eat today is toxic, but you can't see it. So much of the water you drink, the air you breathe. And we are one body made out of infinite amount of cells. It doesn't matter rich, poor, religion, spirituality, it doesn't matter where you are, what you are. You are the same cell, part of the same body. And now it's a time to start seeing that and acting accordingly. It is really important that we regulate the way we treat living matter, the way we treat animals before and after we use them as food. From the actual animal while it's alive to the leftovers and remains and the way we dispose it. As we said, we know how to dispose human bodies in a way that's healthy and will not create plagues and hurt the environment. But we don't do that with animals. And the other issue is that in some places in the world, some countries we do. We have regulations and we keep them. But we're not yet the fully global community. So in different countries, we have different traditions, different laws, different rules, and different conditions too. So sometimes people have not enough food, so they eat wild animals and they eat things that maybe we shouldn't, or that we don't have the immunity when we're faced with issues like this type of virus. So we can see how there will be a benefit when we do have a more global connection, understanding, and acceptance. It's not a competition between nations when it comes to health. Health and healthcare is not a business, it's not a competition. It should only be a human right and something we all do together to improve life on this planet. Right now, it still operates as a business in some places, but we have to move forward with that into a place where we ensure our future as a whole, as a society. Which is the reason this moment is an interesting moment to watch as we start to see that we have to do that, as governments now are putting money and effort towards that as a whole. It's not anymore that each person has to take care of themselves, because it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a homeless on the street, you can spread the disease and affect everyone and anyone. So we're now seeing the benefits of helping everyone stay healthy and finding the right laws and regulations in treating living matter. And we do it on all levels: air, water, food. In every level there are things we have to do to keep life healthy and sustainable. So I encourage you to watch some of our other videos here on Channel Water and become more aware of both the global community that we are, the ocean of consciousness that we're part of, and also the architecture that is what we're made out of, the architecture that we are. Many people don't see themselves as that, but your body is architecture made by smaller cells of consciousness. So being aware of that is very helpful in understanding how to keep this vehicle healthy and how this cell being healthy helps the bigger body be healthy. So now that you have time and you're home quarantined, I welcome you to watch our videos and try to understand the point of view that we're coming from towards these issues. So thank you very much for watching, and please share with anyone you think might be interested in this video or other videos we have. And be safe. See you soon.